Another thing that was interesting is came across my desk a study about our students at UH, and they said that 3 out of 4 students own computers and 67% already have modems. Now this study was done, I think it was a couple of years ago. It was fairly new, but it's a couple of years old. So chances are that they have more. Of course, we don't know what kind of computers they are. They might be really old computers with tape drives. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure how this data was collected. It was just a summary. Let's see. Also, just looking at documents from the Department of Education, as well as knowing some people from private K through 12. One thing I forgot to mention is that Mark is at Mid-Pac. There is a heavy emphasis on technology. So we might have graduates that have ability, but what's going to happen when they hit UH and all of a sudden what they're finding is mainly traditional courses? You know, it's going to be a real shock to them when they come into the system. Okay, so the project goal was to establish and refine standards for a new designation of information technology intensive courses. And also to design a training program and materials for faculty to be able to use to do this. And for the project impact, we hope to get 15 to 20 courses for the pilot, and we ended up with 17, which I'm pretty pleased with. We had a couple of people that had to drop out. And we were hoping to have at least 18 to 20 students per course. And what we found is when people wrote back, some of you actually have 100 and more students in your classes. So hey, we're above the level. I mean, we just sort of, just with 3 or 4 of you, we just reached the top already. So that was a pretty good thing. Okay. So the project objectives were first to develop the standards, and that we have actually done. We did that this spring, and Mark is going to be showing that too. And to design a training program and instructional materials, and here you are. Now the instructional materials, just to let you know, mainly consist of a web page that our students have been working very hard on. We did find this book, Integrating Educational Technology into Teaching, which is an excellent resource, and we decided it was silly to reinvent the wheel. Now, Curtis has tried very hard to try to get copies of these for you, but the guy has been in Japan that would do that for us. So we can either wait and hope that we get them soon and get them for you, or you can just write and ask for desk copies. You can tell them you're involved in this project, and I bet you can all get free copies. So I'll let you take a look at this later. The other thing that we also have, and we decided that it would be a lot to try to copy everything, we have a lot of materials in our department that are created by our students because they are instructional design students and educational technology students. And so we have things like how to make your own videos, creating electronic portfolios, which actually we'll be showing you on Friday. We have Hyper Studio materials, which we'll be showing you, going online with UH Unix, and this is actually available at the Student Copy Center, using Pine, which is a guide to doing that, using Fetch. We have lots of materials here. Computer graphics, scanning, More Kids Than Computers, Get Web, Seeing is Believing, just a lot of resources that have already been created. And we really didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so we didn't make a large booklet for you. But instead, what we're going to do, we're going to put all of these over at OffDOS along with the electronic materials that we have. So you can go and make copies of these. They're all copyright free. You can use them with your students, so they might serve as student handouts. Most of the students have put their names on them, so if you would leave those and let the students get credit for those, that would be nice. Or if during the conference you want to take a look at these and we can get copies to you, I'm going to try to keep these this week so you'll have a chance to look at them. Okay, let's see. Also, we were hoping to train 15 to 20 faculty, and I think we've hit that mark. Also, to assist faculty in the redesign of their courses. So this is not just a 2-week deal here. You're supposed to be doing this for next year, so we can't just sort of train you and say, okay, we've done our job. We expect to assist you. One thing is through OffDOS, and we'll try to continue to do some training based on your needs, so if you will be in touch about what you need. We're also going to try to recruit some educational technology students. I have a practicum class in the fall, and we're going to see if we can get you maybe some one-on-one help. You know, so maybe during the week I can get to know you and figure out what students would work for you. These 2 students in particular are going to be part of that practicum course, so if you get to know them and you like it well enough, maybe Mark also will be online, and he said that he's committed to the project for the year, even though we had to pay him through June the 30th. So he claims that he's still committed. You know how they are once they graduate.
My wife thinks I'll be committed by the time I'm done.
Yeah, what you may not know about Mark is not even 2 weeks ago he had a brand new baby boy, his very first. So that he's even here today is really pretty amazing. So
I'll show you his webpage later.
And of course, number 5, which has a lot to do with you, and that is to deliver 15 to 20 of our brand new technology intensive courses. Okay, and then of course, it's not through until you evaluate. What we're going to be doing is evaluating the project. First of all, is to evaluate and review the draft of the standards. And the reason I call it the draft of the standards, nothing is ever finished. And in technology, nothing is ever finished. No matter what you do, something always changes. So we'll be continuing to work on those. Also, formative evaluation of the training and instructional materials, particularly the web page. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be asking for your help with that. You've already started with that by doing the survey that you filled out this morning, because it's going to be a pre and a post, and we'll ask you to do that again at the end. Also, we're going to ask you nearing the end of the project, or sort of mid-range in the project and then after, if we can sit down and talk with you and interview about what happened and how you felt about the process, so that we can put that in our report at the end. This is what we promised to do in the grant. Okay, and evaluation of the technology intensive courses. Something similar to what you had today. You had the faculty version of the survey, but we're going to be working on what would be the best way to evaluate those courses. Of course, it'll include some more things, like about the course itself, probably compared to other courses, but we want to evaluate based on those standards. So what you saw when you start to look at the standards, you'll see some of that language in there. And so we will actually be evaluating the courses. The plan right now is to do the same thing that we've done with you, evaluate at the beginning of the course and at the end, so we have a pre and a post on every student. Okay, the project timeline, let's see how we've done with this. In the spring, we were supposed to create a team, develop the standards and review it, and develop the evaluation instruments. Yes, we actually got that done, so I was pretty happy. And in the summer, we were supposed to develop the training program and instructional materials, which since summer just got here, we've actually done fairly quickly. And obtain commitments from trainers and guest speakers, which we managed to do. Train faculty for technology and intensive courses, so at the end of 2 weeks, we will have done that. And evaluate the training materials, so we're okay. Now, what's gonna happen in the fall? We're going to try to recruit some ed tech graduate students to help you. We're going to try to assist you in curriculum development, and remember, that's what I've done for years, so if you need some help personally, you can call me and I'll see what I can do. And then conduct evaluation of the project's development phase. And in the spring and fall, we will start to develop the courses, evaluate the courses, and what we need to do is go back and revise the courses and the standards. So as you start to go through this and look at the standards, think about the guidelines and standards and how this is coming together, we need your help to improve the process, because you are the pilot group. Okay, there are going to be some remaining questions, and even after this grant is finished, I'm sure that there will be. One thing that we need to always do is back up and validate our assumptions. One is, in a few years, will we even need anything called technology intensive courses? Will it be so pervasive that it's like teaching somebody to use a telephone? So when will this end? When will it, cease to matter? The next is a good needs assessment of our current status at UH. We really, at this point, don't have a good idea of what's happening out there. And what we'd like to do is try to talk one of our graduate students, maybe a PhD student, into doing the study. Another is information technology versus the word technology. There's a lot of controversy about which is the appropriate term. We decided to go with the broader term technology because we feel like in the sciences and other areas, there's more technology than just information technology. So we decided to go with the broader term. Every once in a while, you might see that I didn't take that out. We've gone back and forth on that. And of course, we all wonder if this is going to be continued to be supported with research resources for the administration, and how they will support the continuation of the program. Will this actually become like writing intensive, something that we do on a regular basis?
That's a good story.
Good. More than, come on, Amy. That's fine. No problem. I think there's a slide up there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and he's going to talk about the standards and the guidelines.
Okay. I have a question.
Sure.
Is this PowerPoint that you've been using
Absolutely.
on Macintosh?
It's on Macintosh, but it's exactly the same thing for PC.
In fact, what I'll say is, the presentation I'm gonna show you, I made on my PC at home, and then I just brought it over to Macintosh this morning, and all I had to change was the bullets. So the beautiful thing is that the software is getting a lot more seamless that way. So
Yeah.
it'll be that much.
And there is a workshop. I've taken it off the screen. So
What if
it
we have
won't be on
IBM?
there. What's that?
IBM.
Yeah. It's one of the nicest thing about what Microsoft is doing is making it exactly the same and making it very easily transferable. In our own department, we have students that are both. Actually, most of them become ambidextrous because they have so many Macs at school, and a lot of them have PCs at home, so they're able to go both. And so those nice cross-platform things that slide easily back and forth are often made by Microsoft.
Sure.
Sure.
So the project as it is now will last a year, and then you don't know at that point what will happen. With these courses that we're developing as technology intensive, they'll be designated as such for one semester.
Well, we assume that you'll just carry on. How much financial support we'll get, or probably right now, there's a lot of controversy about adding more things to the curriculum, like required. But what I feel like is that we'll start to market those courses as technology intensive. So you can advertise your courses that way, you can promote them that way. I don't see any reason why we can't continue that as a faculty. At this point, the administration, other than giving us money, has not been terribly involved. I mean, this has all been done with the faculty. It's sort of like they said, here's the money, and we went, thank you very much, and we proceeded. So I think it's really up to us in terms of what we decide. Yeah.
Well, you and I talked about this on the phone, but I still question one of your fundamental facts, and that is the number of students who have computers
Yeah.
and have access. And even if they do, it is very difficult for them to, say, get in through UH, either through UH, the PACs, or get into a PPP.
Yeah.
And so I'm worried about if we were to go out and give my class to an average mix of students.
Yeah.
Last term, I had something like 20 students in the class, and maybe only 3 were actually taking advantage of the fact that all of this was appearing on a website. So I think you have to jimmy the odds here to,
I think that
demonstrate this.
there's a lot of that. Hopefully during the conference, a lot of this conference is being handled by OITS, which is the Office of Information Technology and Services, with David Lassner at the head of it. And it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing, really. And we found that being in a Department of Educational Technology, if you don't have the clear need and students needing it, then you can't get the resources. So you have to have the need, and then you get the resources, and then you get the need, and then you get the resources. And with our own students, we've had to really start to force the point. And one of the things that you might have seen today is the little e-mate that Mark had. And these are now $800 at the bookstore, which is a lot less than a laptop. They have full access to the web, and it really works, he said, real well. And so I think that the technology is being pushed very hard to keep up with all the demands that we're making. And I know that that's a problem, and we face it just constantly. But at the same time, it's hard to sit back and not do anything. So we just keep pushing the envelope and seeing what happens. Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say, what we try to do sometimes is have dual resources for students that just can't do it.
Yes, I think as faculty, we have to create that kind of demand. I think, as far as getting online from off campus, all of us know the hardship it is. And so, one of the things that Dave has done is, I guess, gone out and looked for a service provider that can do a low-cost connection into UH units.
but I mean, even if you just take, my point would be that even if you took a mix of students,
Yeah.
regular class,
Yep.
it's show what we really can't do if you don't have those. I think what I'm saying is you have to get a specific group of students recruited for these courses that are going to be working.
That may happen to some degree if we can market them fairly well. And one of the nice things in my department is that the course that I have is not required, but it's one of choice of required things. And I tell you, the students who take it because they want to are a lot better than one semester when I had a group that had to. I mean, it was a completely different group of students. So you're right, if we can market towards the people initially who want it, I think more and more students, as they get the capability, will want it. I absolutely agree with you.
And to add to that, I would say that, when we originally went through, and we'll talk a little bit about where the standards came from in the committee that helped with that, and some of you were involved in that. That was no small issue in those meetings also about that. And as we talk about the guidelines that are in there, one of the ideas that was bounced around is, do we require something which the resources at the university right now don't have, which was originally part of what we talked about. And so as you'll see when we talk about the guidelines summits, right now, we're looking at more maybe making this something that's tagged as a course but not necessarily required because the resources aren't in place right now to do that. So it's been discussed for quite a time now about how to deal with that.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah. I
Sure.
have a question. You know, our second level in our department is offered such that it's divided into topics. It would be out of phase if we offered like 201 in spring semester, so we have we divided in half 201 for and 202 for spring. So when I implement this course, I would start at the
At
middle
fall.
of the whole course itself.
You
Is
just
that-
you just have to decide what will work for you, and you have to think about personally how that course will handle it, and whether the students are going to be second semester, and in some ways, sometimes second semester students are a little easier to work with because you're already familiar with their needs. So you just have to individualize that. Maybe when we get to the hands-on part, we can talk specifically about your course. Okay.
I appreciate finally meeting you all by face. I know via email, I'm kind of impressed, quite honestly, that most all of this is run through fax and email to get you here, and so it's good to have you here. I want to preface before I start to let you know a little bit about me. I'm a science teacher, and so if I say things that are sort of with a science or mathematical bent, you'll have to forgive me, but it's one of my passions, and I can't help myself at times. And I have to say that the last week in preparing for this, every time I've gone on my computer, I had to go and look at the Mars Pathfinder website. I kept getting distracted because every day there were pictures coming in from Mars, and I kept getting sideways. So if there's any pictures of Mars in here, you'll have to forgive me because I kept flipping back and forth to see what the recent pictures were. What I want to do is share with you a little bit, and certainly you're going to spend a lot of time next 2 weeks looking at these standards and how they're going to fit into what your plans are for your course. And I am going to sit because otherwise I'll wind all over the place and take too long here, so I hope I'm not too badly blocked here, but the information is here. To start off, the question is, for the technology-intensive ideas, what should the graduates know? And so what we've got here in the standards that you're going to see are primarily student-centered. It's not about what the course has per se, but it's about what the student can do. The standards evolved from really a bunch of different sources, and they're really all inside this packet if you want to see that, although you don't need to become intimately familiar with all of them. But I do want to highlight a few of them so that you have a sense of where they came from and why we felt that they were a good source. In particular, we looked at the SCANS report, which is short for the Secretary's Commission on Acquiring Necessary Skills. The General Ed Committee, which Dr. Fulford's already mentioned, ISTE, which is an organization which looks specifically at technology and education, and the input from the Standards Committee itself. To give you just a brief background on that, the SCANS report was done in 1992 by the Secretary of Labor. In particular, what the Secretary of Labor did was look and talk to business and education leaders about where the needs were for the next set of generation coming out of the schools, both high schools and universities, and what their background needed to be. It was not technology specific, but what this organization did was they identified what are the competencies that are needed by the next folks going into the workplace. And quite a few of those dealt with how technology was used in the workplace. And so we looked at that document, and that's included in the packet there, so you can look through it. The General Education Committee, as Dr. Fulford mentioned, had a variety of things that they recommended for the reevaluation of the core that's centered around these main ideas: critical thinking, information retrieval, and this document is also inside there. So again, I won't spend a lot of time going through the details of it. Oral communication, quantitative reasoning, written communication, these are the main areas. And then within those, there are areas that they said specific skills that were needed by what the core should do to produce the kind of students that are needed moving into their professional fields. The IST standards ended up being a little bit more specific. IST stands for the International Society for Technology and Education. The specific standards that you'll see in the packet from this group were developed for educators. And they really have three levels. Ones that were for just courses that would have technology, advanced ones for people who are going to be using technology, and then really heavy technology users. And that list that you see in there really formed the backbone of this project. And you'll notice when you look at the standards that there are references directly to both the general education core recommendations as well as these standards. The other thing, as Dr. Fulford mentioned, is we use writing intensive as the model that we started with, although as you'll see we've digressed because of the recommendations both from the writing intensive folks as well as the standards committee from some of the ideas that they have. In brief, right now at the university you need to take 5 writing intensive courses. A course is designated as writing intensive when a proposal is made and a board of 9 faculty members approve that course as writing intensive, and it meets certain criteria that are laid out in terms of how writing is used. For instance, writing is used for remote learning. And we wanted to look at technology in the same way, at least initially, to see how that would work. When we talked to the folks, and particularly Tom Hilgeris, who runs the writing intensive project, it's also verified by the departments. Some of these points are worth noting because as we talk about the technology standards and the technology intensive courses, some of these ideas are some of the things that we're still looking for input on, because since it's a pilot group, we really want to get an idea of what will work best. As writing intensive is right now, even though the approval is done by a board, the verification that a course is being done is run by the departments and not by the board itself. There's no oversight other than the initial approval of the course. Some of the things that they shared with us, and some of you I know are already doing writing intensive classes, as you told us, is the idea that when you're using writing intensive, the first idea was, if I'm going to do this, I've got something else I have to add to my course. I'm not going to be able to teach as much. And the experience has been, at least in the interviews that we've done with the folks, is that people have found that they can teach more, not less, once they've learned how to use the writing intensive as a vehicle for getting to the content. One of the lessons learned is that there's no requirement right now that a writing intensive course meets the graduation requirement for your major. You can take literally all your writing intensive courses outside your major, although you have to take some 300 and 400 level courses. It's possible for someone to graduate without really taking courses within their major. And that's a weakness in the writing intensive as it is right now.